Hey everybody, AJ here from the Two Chaps Pod, just welcoming you back to another video here on YouTube. I want to make sure you're subscribed and pound that bell for notifications. We're going to be jumping into part 3 of our Onward Christian Soldiers, the ethical dilemma of defending your family and what the Bible says and what we should do when we get into those situations. It's been a good discussion so far. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, make sure that you drop a comment for us to engage with you. So without any further ado, here's part 3 of Onward Christian Soldiers, the ethical implications of military service and defending your family and what the Bible has to say about that. And as always, stay uncultured.
This goes back to what God has instituted. There are people who are deputized to act on behalf of the law, good, and use lethal force if necessary. And that's, I mean, that's another thing, and that we don't. I would say one conclusion definitely is we never take the law into our own hands.
Yeah, we are not Batman.
We are not Batman. We're not vigilantes. We are not.
Nor should we be.
No, correct. Absolutely. We are not authorized to do that in that regard. And so to get a hold of those who are authorized to do that and, in a sense, pass the buck to them if it is possible, and let that, and I know, get into whatever with justice, but there is a sense of things have been set up, government institutions and all that stuff have been set up by God. We have them established in our country for a particular reason. Let that do its job.
Yes.
And again, I get it. Knaves, scoundrels, and rascals can occupy all of those positions, and the whole thing can be corrupt. I understand that.
Yes.
But at least the office and the expectation that those things will be carried out properly.
Yeah.
We ought to hold to that and endorse that, because that's really what we want for all people. And especially if it does work right and becomes a deterrent to those who would want to commit heinous acts, then that order and peace can flourish.
Yes.
Because if it's the other way, maybe this is a point by counterexample, that because if it's the other way, if it's every man for himself,
it's anarchy.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And that would be going back to the Luther piece. That's the one thing that he could not stand for was rebellion and anarchy.
Yeah.
Like one leading to another.
Yeah.
Because it was he, and this is, part of the history in his thinking, the peasants' revolt that happened. Longer story, but I'll summarize it as quickly and inaccurately as I possibly can. There were questions about. So there were peasants that had problems with the prince, and they wanted to know what should be done. And Luther didn't really quite respond to him at first, and they took it upon themselves to revolt against the princes. Luther told the princes, "You've got to establish order." They went and they slaughtered, I don't know, it's 25,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
And Luther regretted that because of the loss of life, but he also understood that's the role of the sword is to quell those rebellions and that's what he believed wholeheartedly. So anything that was rebelling, he took the Romans 13 to heart, that these things have been instituted by God, and so to rebel against what has been instituted by God, even if they are wicked, is to say, God, we don't trust your authority. We don't trust your provisions
Correct.
in this regard.
Go ahead. Finish.
So it just rebellion and anarchy, taking the law into our own hands, is a completely out of the question. It cannot ever be that way.
I mean, to call it what it is sin.
Well, yeah.
That needs to be repented of.
Right.
Man, that's what it is. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
And then I'm going to follow it up with a explanation of why I asked you the question, and then ask you another question to foster this conversation a little bit further, because I just had a thought pop in my mind, and I want to bounce it off of you.
Okay.
Our jobs as husbands and dads is to what? We've talked about this numerous times.
Provide and protect.
Provide, protect, love, serve, train. Right?
Yep.
Okay. That is our responsibility. And we believe that is our God-given responsibility, order of creation, that when God placed Adam and Eve in the garden, that is what he commanded that Adam do by having dominion over creation. And actually gave Adam and Eve dominion over creation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Love, protect, serve, train, right? Provide.
Provide. Yeah.
If that is our duty, if that is our responsibility, if that is our God-given occupation, and here's my question, we should then be doing everything we can, regardless of any hypothetical situation we can come up that defense would be necessary, doing everything we can to protect that. Mm-hmm. Correct? So, what I mean by asking that question is this. That gives us our answer in a lot of ways of defending our home. If our family is present and there is a threat, we are the protector.
Yep.
If our family is not present and there is a threat, we have to protect our God-given occupation to protect them, which means living another day.
Yep.
Agree or disagree?
Agree. Because
Okay.
that is the...
That was a very, very lengthy, nice elaboration. I really appreciate. I was trying to set you up there, and I got one word.
You got... It was a what? It was... The question was agree or disagree. Agree.
Okay, then my teacher brain is going, tell me why. Elaborate.
I was always told, answer the question. And that's more wise words. That was something I learned in seminary is... answer the question.
Yeah.
You know, that's
okay. So agree or disagree?
Agree.
Now tell me why.
Okay.
There's the teacher.
Because of what you said, that God has placed you in this role in particular. And you, in a sense, need to be able to do that the next day until the day that God calls you home. And again, does this push up against, well, what if it's God's intent to call you home by having someone break into your house and kill you? Whatever.
This is death by 1,000 paper cuts of hypothetical situations here.
Exactly. So yeah, you can't really think about that. You have to think in the concrete. Okay.
Good. I was about to say, yes, you have to think in the concrete. We know what God has commanded us to do. Exactly. Not theoretically calling us home by, yes. Okay.
Correct.
Continue.
So it is, my vocation is to protect and provide and love and serve and train my family as the husband, as the father. And so my responsibility is to make sure I can do that. And that is true on so many different ways as well. That's like finding work.
Yeah.
You know, if, whatever I'm a pastor, so it would be something, the church blew up, whatever, and all of a sudden I have no source of income to provide for my family. Well, all right, McDonald's is hiring for $14 an hour.
Yeah.
That's a start. And, then I know where I can go to get food for them, where I know that I can go
Which
to
is
get...
ironically the same place you got your hypothetical job.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, but to realize that whatever whatever the situation is, those are my priorities.
Mm-hmm.
Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for it. Well, that means you're going to go to whatever extent and whatever things are necessary to get to do that for your family. And the other thing with that, and I know I struggle with this personally, is trusting that God is going to provide for you. You know, and why I say I struggle with that is there's a part of my mind that's always going to worst case scenarios, contingencies, whatever.
Correct.
Forgetting that God has called other Christians to help take care of me and my family. And not only has God called other Christians, but God uses other even unbelievers and pagans in the world to continue to provide things that I need and opportunities that I need. And so there's a where that ends up going is to not stand on your pride and say, I've got to figure this all out on my own, but to be humble enough to say, okay, God, here's the situation I'm in. I need your help, and I need you to give me the wisdom to find that help elsewhere. And, you know, because he's God, he's good, and he's merciful, and he's gracious, and he's giving, he usually inspires by the Holy Spirit in others in an outpouring of love. We've hit on this on many other topics, and I realize we're getting way far afield on this, but that's also the importance of the community of the church being together for each other. So,
but I mean, that's ultimately what we're doing, right? Is we are protecting the community. We're protecting the good of the community, and that is incumbent upon men. I mean, that is part of our responsibility. And to be honest with you, I know this has been a conversation that we've had over, the last few months, and it's probably a conversation that's going to continue, though I think we've made some really good headway tonight, to be honest with you. Hypothetical situations or not, I think that we've done a really good job of kind of fleshing out what this means, like the difference between playing the hero and protecting what you're called to protect.
Yeah.
Like, that is so important. But we also want to hear your thoughts on this too. So make sure wherever you're listening or wherever you're watching this from, make sure you're commenting on it below so that we can engage in that conversation. What do you think about this? Are you a man that thinks that you can play the hero in the chance that you may not get to protect your family after that? Tell me why. I want to know. I want to hear from you, and I know that Coleman does too. But that's going to do it for us on this episode of the Two Chaps Pod. If you want full audio, I know on YouTube we give you part 1 and part 2 to try to keep the videos shorter. If you want full audio, make sure you check out Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Rate us on there, like us on there, make sure that you've subscribed there. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and followed us on all social media accounts where we are dropping content and shorter even videos than this. We appreciate every single one of you. I'm AJ. He's Coleman. We are from Uncultured Dad and the Two Chaps Pod, and we want to remind you to always stay uncultured. Hey everybody, just want to thank you once again for spending some time with the Two Chaps Pod today. If you're on YouTube, make sure that you've liked and subscribed to our channel. Pound that bell for notifications so you can be notified when our latest content drops. If you're on social media, we are all over the place, including the brand new Threads from Meta. And I do want to remind you, for longer content, including pre-show and post-show audio, make sure you've subscribed on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. We'll be back next week with a new episode of the Two Chaps Pod, and until then, stay uncultured.